Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves some tracks from an act named Khalil Fong. A lot of them. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the first track which is titled Clear. Now we're going to be reviewing a total of 13 songs today. This is a video that I suppose has been commissioned by Fubaka, who I understand is clearly a fan of Khalil Fong. And we're going to be listening through 13 of these tracks today in this video from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, starting with Clear. Oh, rap. Was that freeform with the tempo? 不是一般的糖分，当下就当下，就给了自己造了框架。未来的世界怎样，看我们怎么衡量。必须要看得清楚点，项链上的毛孔清楚点，微信下的交通清楚点，花菜里的小虫清楚点，清楚点，记住要看得清楚点，帽衫上的针孔清楚点，深山里的灯笼清楚点。那会告诉的神功，清楚点，清楚点。Kind of future. What is that? The future funk? Neo soul? What is that kind of? Almost sounds sort of future bass-ish. What am I talking about? I just love the synth sound there, right? Fantastic. With a really subtle bass in the background. It's great to have that music box through at a dynamic range there. I appreciate what we're going for here. There's a lot of little bits of interest in here from the different drum parts, the keys there, the use of synth and electric basses. The various vocalizations going between falsetto and rapping sections are cool as well. Is there a bit of modulation there? Or is just making the most of different vocal ranges? Is that like cutting some vocal chops of another person in the background? It's really creative. No, I think there's something really special about this track. It's a nice reintroduction into Khalil Fong's work. It's been a while since I've listened to him. I thought the rapping there, the falsetto with the vocals, as well as just the singing in general was fantastic. Lots of range there sufficiently demonstrates his prowess in that response, but it's also just the really kind of low-key down to earth, kind of intimate nature of the kit, the various basses there, the synths, the pads there, the sort of futuristic, kind of zazzy, colorful, pretty elements there, occasional flutters of things in the mid to high range there that sparkle things up. It was nice as well to have the music box in mid-range. As someone who doesn't understand the language, I kind of need the music to do most of the heavy lifting. I'm very impressed though. Very impressed with what they managed to accomplish and pull off today. It showcases, it makes me feel really excited for what's to come. The production was top notch as well. Absolutely no complaints there. Things kind of went from the center of the stereo field to sort of swim around a little bit, and ultimately very satisfying to listen to. And now we got track number 2, which is titled Mr. Inspiration.
Everyone has a brain, we use our brain to think. Like when we choose a crayon, shifo, yellow, white, or pink. Or if you want to write a book, but don't know what to say. Well, you need to be creative, cause that's the only way. What do you need to do to be...
That jazzy transition there to the extension, kind of very kind of like nursery rhymish at the start. But that's a real sense of class and sophistication there in that entrance.
Creative. Remember the words of Mr. Inspiration. Imagination, imagination. Time will tell there are no limitations. Just be creative and you can change the world, change the world. And you can change the world. Yeah. Everyone has a brain. We use our brain to think, like when we learn to swim so we know how not to sink. Or if you want to write a song for all to sing along. You need to be creative for a melody that's strong. What do you need to do to be creative?
It's nice to switch away from the legato phrasing of the keys and such in the first chorus or B section.
Remember the words of Mr. Inspiration. Imagination, imagination. Time will tell there are no limitations. Just be creative and you can change the world, change the world. And you can change the world. 有时候当我们没有想法，记住灵感先生说的话。
I mean, I like the change in language here. I think it was nice to have the story in English to sort of gauge what it's all about. I appreciate that personally.
努力生活总会开花，只需要一点创意，被困扰不要放弃，发现你的能力，不要害怕。And most of all, don't forget to use your imagination. What do you need to do to be creative? Remember the words of Mr. Inspiration.
Great use of head voice there, dreamlike.
Time will tell there are no limitations. Just be creative and you can change the world, change the world.
I wasn't a rhythmic phrasing there to focus on our hook line. Well, not the hook line, but you know.
Everyone has a brain. We use our brain to think. Like when we learn to wash the dishes in the kitchen sink. Or if you want to be a doc who keeps the people healthy. You need to be creative, so it's not just to be wealthy.
It's not just to be, you need to be creative, so it's not just to be wealthy. That's charming. That's a sensational song. There's a sense of playfulness with the melodies and the vocal style at the beginning that kind of becomes a bit more sort of like grounded when you come into those jazzy extensions with the harmonies in that second part there. And we kind of go between that A and B section there in a way which I think is great because it covers both languages, and almost because we switch to the language it changes the feel of the track up for both people. I'm not sure if the lyrics are repeated verbatim in the second half, but either way it's fine. It might be a little bit of sort of like a Easter egg if you can understand the second half, but I just think the use of the really sort of full sounding basses combined with the really pristine pads, as well as some really sleepy sounding, like the little some musical bells that sounded very sleepy, you know, that you can kind of imagine being in dreamland whilst you listen to this. It's about creating that aesthetic of the actual vibe of the track in a way that's really sort of healthy for the listener. I think it's just, it helps you to imagine and explore what they're talking about. Plus the combination of the fact that everything is not all the time, even though the vocals are the focal point there. I like the fact we allow plenty of space for instruments in the rest of the mix through allowing a sense of space within the composition to not feel overwhelmed in that regard. There were vocals in various ranges, but there was always room for the drum kits or the keys, or like the bass or the keys or anything like that. And part of that is due to the songwriting, but also due to the fact that the production is absolutely stellar within this. It's a different type of production that we had to a previous track, which was a bit more kind of almost sinister sounding, but this one is just, I can understand the audience is aimed at, and I think that they'd love it. Great work. I just also like the positive message of the lyrics, the part about getting kids to use their brains for imagination and creativity and stuff like that. I think that's a really inspiring message that a lot of people can honestly put more effort into putting into their music. I think music can be more positive than it is, and I think that it's possible to have equally meaningful experiences with stuff that helps people to improve and learn and understand more about the world. I really enjoy material like this because of that. You know, sure, there's nothing wrong with making stuff that's not as kind of like optimistically productive as this, but it's also like talking about like the money versus creativity thing. It's ideologically sort of like trying to sort of like sort that out. It kind of encourages you to question your own beliefs on things in certain extents, and I really appreciate that. And now I've got track number 3 titled TWIOCAMIC. TWIOCAMIC. Bit of a tricky one for me to say that one.
Exact same problems exist in different form. Same kind of culture, but a slightly different norm. Don't hold history against them. No one needs to be fenced in.
Great use of reverb there with those hits.
In a very state of progression, we're all created equal. Each got our own prequel. It's only fair that we should all get that sequel. Throwing people in the fire when we all should aspire to inspire to acquire the virtues that would change or retire. It's the same type of brand, just a different label. Stop living in a dreamland or some kind of fable.
He's got some hip-hop chops. I don't necessarily remember listening to a lot of rap music from Khalil Fong when we reviewed him previously, but he nails it here.
When we gon' realize it's the man in the mirror. It's time to face ourselves, it can't get any clearer. No one's really a hero, no one's truly a villain. Just that some did more and some did less of the killing. Please don't come at me with blind-eyed conclusions. We all
used to double trapping with different ranges.
Stop judging from our perspective, cause truth cannot be projected. Clarity should be our sole objective. How you and I can be truly connected. Love and patience is where we'll find answers. Hatred and violence are causing us cancers. I'll make mistakes and point fingers at others. What if instead I could see them as brothers?
Having things nice and quiet at that point forces you to listen to those lines and really sort of stare them in the face and soak them in. There's so much color and intensity with like little floaty kind of synths there, as well as the melodic percussion we had at some parts there with just the minimalist kit. But I like the dynamic range and the variations within the backing.
That they too have fathers and mothers. This is the way we should treat one another. Through all the trials and tribulations, make this an era for conversations. Let's put prosperity of mankind in place. Let's make a stand for a new kind of case. I don't believe it's you I need to face. I was not taught, I'm from a different race. TWIOCAMIC, not you, not me, not them, just us. One planet, one people, for true justice. Amongst one another, we must find trust. TWIOCAMIC.
TWIOCAMIC.
Not you, not me, not them, just us. One planet, one people, for true justice. Amongst one another, we must find us. It's me versus me.
Just us must find us. That's kind of riding the line a little bit, but I gotta respect that hustle, man.
Us versus us, not he versus she, not us versus them. Agree to disagree, to then understand, then speak unity. Don't rush to reprimand. Would you see me as a process? Respect my wins and losses. We all got laws and we all got clauses. Let's not dwell in past politics. It's war without guns, and war without guns still hurts daughters and sons. The earth is for all men, and I mean for all people. There is no doubt he and she were made equal. We got different attributes and different reality. Two wings of one bird is the greatest analogy. Give the whole wide world this chance opportunity. Together we'll reach a new stage of maturity, purity of motive and righteous intention. Pave the way forward, our path to ascension. Yes, I may have an alternate opinion, and I seek to respect yours, but I'm a different kind of minion. But really, how am I so different? The truth is, I bleed the same, so how am I indifferent? From all animosity, atrocities, we must all refrain. In chaos and mistrust, there's nothing to gain. There isn't a battle that exists without shame. Cause we all unique, but we all the same. TWIOCAMIC.
I want to sort of like give a shout out to the kind of 90s hip hop aesthetic going on here. The 90s hip hop 90s hip hop aesthetic, the way with dubba the dun, the dun 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 dun, the dubba the dun. We're not got. When was this released? 2020. Yeah, we're not keen on any of that sort of like mumble rap triplet kind of stuff. I kind of adore it because of that. Like we're trying to tell a story that's kind of wholesome sounding, and we are deliberately going with maybe what we grew up with in regards to rap and hip hop and stuff like that. And I like that sense of authenticity that we don't feel needs to stick to current trends.
Not you, not me, not them, just us. One planet, one people, for true justice. Amongst one another, we must find trust. TWIOCAMIC. Not you, not me, not them, just us. One planet, one people, for true justice. Amongst one another, we must find us.
So the thing I liked about TWIOCAMIC was just how well fleshed out the concept was. I think lyrically, as well as with the vocal performance and the track in general, the vocals are the focal point, as with a lot of hip hop and rap. We had someone trying to sort of talk about how effectively we should all be treating each other as equals, and the fact that we are so, against each other, and a lot of people are at each other's throats and making assumptions that aren't necessarily accurate, especially at 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic. It makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of horrific stuff going around the world, so to speak. And I appreciate the fact that we've got musicians managing to simultaneously, like Khalil Fong, simultaneously write songs like this, but also sort of communicate it in a way that isn't cheesy or kind of rendered meaningless because of that. Like a lot of people, like I review music, as you know. And I will get music through, for example, at the height of the Ukraine stuff, I'd get musicians sending through stuff about Ukraine, and you could kind of tell when they genuinely, like, I don't want to be the gatekeeper for caring about things, but it more seemed like with some acts it was about building their career rather than trying to talk about a subject. It's a shame when that occurs, because then you make it about yourself as opposed to the thing you're talking about. I think Khalil Fong, they have to be able to rap well and sort of communicate and do great storytelling in order for this track to be meaningful to listen to in the first place. But it's also the fact that you have a variety of different decisions, again, like coming out, looking at each other as if we're like brothers and sisters, and it's not he versus them or whatever. I just like the fact that the bass that we had in the background was occasional. It kind of came in and it was always very cinematic and dramatic, like it was a war cry or something like that, a war cry for peace. With the synths, the vocal overdubs, the falsettos that came in later on there. Just very atmospheric, and lots of little sort of synth flurries and interesting bits of instrumentation sort of ornamented throughout. We could have had things constant the entire time, but I think it would have taken away focus from the words, which are so important. And I think this is, and again, another really incredibly well-produced track. I love it to pieces. There were sub-layers and layers handled really well. It was a really strong track. I'm really impressed. So I couldn't actually find the original song on Spotify that I was supposed to check out, so I've just found Noodles on YouTube for us to check out today, so that's cool. It's a quarantine music video.
Hello， 大家好，希望大家最近都平安。
So that's cool.
这3个月来呢，我一直待在家。有一天想着，很想跟大家分享，来切一点点葱花，备用，再来一
So
点
chill,
点
man.
蒜蓉，备用，要切一点点香菜。有很多人不喜欢，好害怕，但是我非常喜欢。不喜欢就别。
Like the yeah, and he puts his thumb up there. It's just great forethought, man.
要准备酱油，
Little things made the audio-visual experience special.
最近买的辣油，再放几勺盐，然后一勺甜，不放猪油，因为我吃素。这是我的阳春，甜甜，随时随地任何事情都爱吃，甜甜，何时何况都会盼望每一日，甜甜，爱是一时总是傻事，爱是一个面条花式，我爱吃，面面面面面。
Like that meh 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 meh. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun, dude.
敲门就在有理由 Garlic and pepperoncino 看起来很简单，做起来不简单，吃起来更不简单。
It's almost barbershopish kind of R&B-ish overtones.
喜欢吃 pasta 煮着橄榄油，留给好朋友。甜甜，随时随地任何事情都爱吃。甜甜。
Phenomenal amount of dynamic range as well. Like, it's really loud. I don't mind it too much. Noodles.
That's right. 给我一碗。
It's these little sort of guitar flutters on the side as well. You can follow along to the bass line and the melody and the chords and stuff like that, but it's the extra little bits of scattering things that he uses, as well as the use of blank space.
随时随地任何事情。随时随地任何事情都爱吃，何时何况都会盼望每一日。爱是一时总是傻事，爱是一个面条花式，我爱吃。面是的面，我爱吃这个面，吃那个面，天天去那个店，新鲜刚切的手擀面，各自形状有各自体验，有扁的、宽的、细的、粗的，某些适合酱和醋的，有些不是 Chinese food 的，这高汤底不是素的。
It fills me with joy seeing people play the guitars on their tracks. I know that you don't need to be able to play guitar to release a track with guitar in it, but if you can add that bit of soul to the song you're selling, it can be really effective. Nice little bit of coloration on top of the existing vocal lines. Not that there are now, but you know. It's that bass line in the background as well, like in the low end. It's just so soothing. There's great niching of things in this, in the frequency spectrum. They have so much presence. Speaking from experience, it's really difficult to get a, where is a good shot of Noodles? Here we go, there's Khalil Fong. It's really difficult to get a good sort of mix of the electric bass with the guitars on top, with the keys sounding. It's something I've always personally struggled with when I've done production. So I have a lot of respect for people and engineers who can do that. I'm aware that at this stage in Khalil Fong's career, he's probably got more than sufficient access to the best studio producers and mixing and mastering engineers that exist. But at the same time, it's just always something to be grateful for. But if I focus on the track itself, I think this was a song about noodles. I think there was a lot of joy in it. It wasn't just the way we were singing and the characterizations in the video. Clearly, Khalil Fong is charismatic. It can hold the attention of listeners, and I have a lot of respect for that. Or viewers, should I say. I have a lot of respect for that. But also listeners, to be fair. Because it wasn't just that we sang really well and displayed great vocal technique. It wasn't just that we had really sort of compelling melodies, and then the backing vocals had this sort of pad-like, kind of beautiful crispness whilst also being so smooth, man. It was wonderful. But there was also a sort of little rapping section that came in before the lead guitars near the end. There's just so much range there with the way we tell a story and describe things. We seem to know the ideal place to switch things up, and that's a really fundamental thing with songwriting, is not to have too much of the same, especially at a point in time where a lot of people's attention spans are absolutely scuffed, and so you kind of need to have a lot of variety within a track in order to hold attention. You know, with that said, I just think that the guitar solo was really soulful, well phrased, not playing too much, and I say that as someone who loves my shred solos. It's just I think it would have been a little too attention grabby if we'd shredded a billion notes a second to make room for, like, again, the minimalist sort of percussion we had there. You know, did we have percussion? Yeah, we had percussion. Yeah, we did have percussion. The minimalist sort of percussion there with the bass line nice and thick and full in the keys and stuff. Things were stacked well. There were little bits of sort of design of, like, the guitar takes coming in after a break in the stereo field as well. The music surrounded you in the headphones, and ultimately it was a very satisfying experience to listen to. And I think it's one of those tracks where even if it's designed, from what I can tell, to be viewed on a phone, you can equally enjoy listening through it through headphones. We're back to Spotify now. We've got track number 5, which is Here's a Little Long. So let's continue with that. Is it going to play? There we go. Thank you.
我的头发有点长，却是长得有点老。
So they're niching the vocals around 150 to 200 hertz.
虽然感觉不太爽，
I get it. Because I'm also learning from the production style of things.
起码还有事在忙。家里面的办公室，让这日子蛮充实。我身边没有同事，和墙壁有了共识。在我 home sweet home， 做个世外梦。
See, these pauses are magnificent. You have the occasional guitar, the big bass, the organs, you know, the keys, the drums, with the vocals nice and smooth and sultry on top.
头发有一点长，
It's effective.
谁来帮我剪短短？怎么还有人观望？带着别到处乱晃，头发有点长。 写到第10册的绘本，希望我今年不会亏本。印完了书会慢慢退出。
Oh, parallel major there, nice.
期望那小朋友的会读。 家里面的办公室，让这日子蛮充实。我身边没有同事。
It's gorgeous with the way things surround you, dude.
在我 home sweet home， 做个世外梦，突然被发为刺痛眼，头发有一点长长。 谁来帮我剪短短？怎么还有人观望？带着别到处乱晃，头发有点长，想到我小时候，我们跑远了，看到我脚趾头，他们抱怨了。 好想回到87年，太平洋的水平线。
I think part of what makes this interesting is the combination of the unpredictable chord patterns past a certain point. Like we don't repeat them too much, but it's also the fact that we have these pauses, these breaks, these kind of little bits of sort of time to think. Especially if I think you understand a language, it's like It's wonderful. Very blues phrasing there.
谁来帮我剪断断？怎么还有人观光？带着别到处乱晃，头发有点。
Oh, that's it. It just stops there. See, that was really cool. So if we get back, just talk about this track for a little bit. Here's a little long. I like that the song just kind of ended on that one line. And like, we typically expect there to be groups of 2 or 4 lines at a time, right? Because otherwise it sounds a little bit uneven. But then you had that. And that's what we had. Things didn't sound resolved. And that's the last track of the single. I think that's absolutely spectacular. A lot of love for that. A lot of love for that. I think they handled it really well. The vocals were on par for the quality we've heard so far from Khalil Fong. In addition to that, I really appreciate the effort that we put into effectively trying to navigate the use of, again, those parallel majors and minors within those progressions there with the organs, the bass, the occasional guitars that came in with that sort of really sort of sweet guitar solo near the end of the track. Without them ever being too much. Like the percussion was just chord note accents the entire time through from what I remember. And again, you had the variety with the vocal takes and such. There was occasional movements of like the wow, kind of with a slow attack on some of those synth fuzzy bits there. But they were just meant to sort of be like, oh, this is letting you know we're here, so we're going to go to this part next. And then he switches up the chord on you, whether it's going to be a minor or a major chord, and you expect that, and that kind of surprises you. Then instantly you're hooked. It's the kind of stuff where like you know enough to know to do less. And we handled that well here. Again, production is solid. Vocals are wonderful, much more low keys than some of the other tracks we've had in this set list, but I don't mind that at all. It's great to see we have range. I'm looking forward to what we have next. Now, I'm being careful about these next two, because I can see that we've got the same images. There is a 2003 demo, and then we've got 2016. There's 405 and then 418. So I assume we're going to listen through the 2003 demo first, and then we're going to listen to the 2016 version. I'm not sure if they're the same or not. They've got the same name, I think, translated, which is Wukong, but I could be wrong. But we'll listen through each of these first. This the 2003, then the 2016. So let's get into it. Oh, very reminiscent of like boy band era of the 90s. That bass is absolutely monstrous. Just it cuts into it, dude. Just in drum groove with some 16ths. Further intensity there, good. And again, the nature of those dun 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 strings, which are a new instrument, as far as I'm aware, they're introducing. It's just another layer of like, oh, where are we going next? What's happening? You got a really kind of catchy beat with lots of sort of vocal fluidity, with the bass and sort of the guitarists on the side there providing a bit of mid-range sort of interest. And hand drums as well, dude. Very used to double tracking.
别上当，聊斋每一回能被全都一样。我脑海是个情景，有些真理，有些道理，有点遗迹，没有忘记我的教训，让我看清应该怎么做。其实耳边要念，不要阻止我看书的是否能你修炼。其实耳边要念，上我的是神，不要太在意。
And rapping. It's really clever to have the vocals, the rapping parts on the sides there. I know I'm probably interrupting it in the middle, and I'm sorry about that, kind of, but to have the double-tracked rapping on the side with the vocals in the center, it's just wonderful use of placement there. It helps you to establish and sort of disseminate what's going on from where. We've had a lot of the same chord progression and bass line though. Oh, right, okay. We're gonna fade out? Yeah, we are. Yeah, that was kind of awkward. I don't think they knew how to finish that one. I think that there's a lot of promise there. I'm assuming that 2003 was one of their earlier tracks in their career. I could be wrong. Let me know, please, in the comments if I am wrong about that. But I think that the vocals were great. Solid technique there. We had again that R&B-ish kind of 90s boy band aesthetic there with the way we phrased ourselves, yet it was Khalil Fong alone. I think that it was still handled very well. The way that the drums were nice and kind of full-bodied, coupled with the kind of slappish kind of bass there, it kind of thudded in that low end there. The occasional cymbals on the 16th note groove. The use of those strings as an occasional sort of 8th note groove sort of facet. The implication of the synths, those little leads on the sides there, the rapping, there was a lot of efforts to make this song engaging, and I think that in general it was well written. The only thing I'd say is I think that the song could have been shorter at the end. I'm not sure if it necessarily benefited from having as much of the hook line. I feel like we'd had quite a bit of that at that extent. We could have potentially cut it short or maybe done something differently, and I feel like later in his career, Khalil Fong would have known to sort of step back from that chorus a bit sooner than we did. There's nothing wrong with trying to play a hook line for what it's worth or a chorus, but it's just making sure that you do what we've done throughout a lot of this album, or a lot of this video so far, where Khalil Fong's constantly added new ingredients, not in a way that's detrimental to the listening experience or confusing, but how they managed to finesse it in a way which makes sense in a way you wouldn't have necessarily considered it would before. Aside from the end chorus, though, I think that things were well played. You know, if you're looking for a song within the genre to sort of vibe with, I'm sure this would be a great start. I just don't know if it's as equally representative of Khalil Fong stuff at this stage as it was. But then again, to be fair, it was over 20 years ago now, because it's 2024. Crazy stuff, man. But we got the first album now, or the first track, number 1 off of the album. If I'm not mistaken. Just going to just double check that I'm not mistaken. It's not often that I do the same track but different versions. Like, yeah, I think this is the same track. Here we go. It's a little bit brighter. Is that a slightly different sizzle to that synth? His voice hasn't changed that much. You gotta admire that. I don't necessarily know if I like how sort of smothered the kit is by those really full setting synths on the sides. I assume we wanted to do more of that later on, but we'll see how we go. Now there is variation there. This is exactly what I was expecting. Well, not exactly, but you know what I mean. See what I mean? We're stopping the drums, allowing the synth to sort of harmonize with the vocals, a war sound, and then we're back to this. There's a little bit more sort of like brightness with the claps with this part, I think. And the synth flower on the side. Like, you could potentially even consider this a completely different song if you hadn't heard the first. If you weren't aware that the two parts were connected, you might think they were two different songs to an extent. It's just great to completely remove a lot of the mid-range sort of synthy stuff going on the sides, to have the wow, wow, wow arpeggio upscaled on that, and just the kicks and kit with the rapping. It's a complete vibe shift. It works excellently here, and this is kind of exactly what I keep saying. It's what I would expect given our past material from Khalil Fong. It's nice that we've evolved this track in a way which I think suits our current sort of direction. And English as well. There might have been English in the first, but there's definitely English in this one.
From whichever page you were on, this is a whole new chapter. See, I once was a king, and now I serve my master. My master is the master of self. He taught me how to master myself. My master is a servant of people, seeks to give strength to the feeble. It's gonna be a long, long journey, but I'll protect him from evil. Someday we'll find the wisdom, one day we'll carry the light. When we return to the kingdom, that we can end the fight. Then all the people will know, after laying eyes on the scroll. Then all the people will know, then all the people will know.
Absolute class act, man.
Yeah.
I love the way this has been changed for this version. It's just a little bit less generic sounding. Now, granted, I know that the 2003 version, I know that it was a demo, so it's not indicative of like the complete final, product that we had. But like, this is smashing. This is spectacular. I think the things I really appreciated in comparison to the original, the demo, were that we had that rapped English part in the later bit of the track. I think that it's Khalil Fong recognizing that there are audiences now that speak that language. So it's like a little bit of like, yeah, no, I know that you're listening to this now. You might have started listening to my later work because you might not have understood that initially this is a really special song to me. So I want you to kind of be able to have a part in it. I think that that's really fantastic. I think in addition to that, the rapped part taking away certain key elements of the song that are so forward to bring it back to make room for the kick and the sort of whistly synths and stuff was an absolute masterstroke. It made me more accepting of when we had the claps and the really sort of overwhelming synth on top of the bass and those hook lines, because it was like, oh, we're deliberately going to contrast it with decisions later on. And you have breaks there where things kind of whistle up the sides or something like that, or sort of ascend or descend. It's just there's a lot of interesting decisions here in this track that I think Khalil was able to make through the experience that he'd had throughout his career. In addition to just the fact that maybe we weren't trying to make a quote-unquote catchy pop single here, in the sense that we weren't trying to do it in a way which was more homogenous. We were trying to go, hey, we want to have less of the same, while still retaining the heart and soul of it. We just want to see what we can do if we add a similar texture that I like the color of, and want to sort of mix up the paints a little bit and add some extra sort of some tertiaries, Primarily, I think the production in this was better primarily because of the lack of a weird fade out near the end when they didn't necessarily know what to do. I still think there's some like charm to the 2003 original. You can tell his voice has changed a little bit. He seems a little bit younger there. But the fact that Khalil Fong's voice in 2016, as well as in a lot of the other more recent tracks, still sounds amazing, is not just because he's got access to all these wonderful resources, I assume, considering the production quality of it, but it's also that he knows how to sing, and he knows how to rap, he knows how to take care of himself. Now I'm going to take a break and come back to the rest of the 6 tracks tomorrow. But if you like this music, please do go check out more Khalil's stuff on the Spotify and all that. I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. I've been enjoying reviewing these songs for people who like the channel and support what I do and want to get their music reviewed. So, be cool to hear what comes forward in future. But until then, see you soon. And welcome back. We are continuing with our review of these 13 Khalil Fong tracks today. We did 7 in the last recording section. I'm doing another 6 today. What I've realized is that, doing longer reviews in halves is nice and healthy. But also the last 6 of these tracks are on the JTW album. I'm not sure of the full translation of that. Apparently this is actually called Journey to the West, so that's cool. So we're going to be listening through the 6 tracks off of Journey to the West today, starting with Ring Finger number 5. So let's go. I'm liking the spacey synths. They're kind of innocent sounding, Ooh. Bit twisted at this part though. Really clean guitar tone. Lady backing box, call and response. Oh, don't forget the ring on your finger. Damn, man. Is that because he's married and he's not supposed to be, showing that off? Give me mid-2000s Justin Timberlake vibes.
电话正在呼叫，老婆正在哭笑，暧昧正在动脑，别让我无聊。只是谈谈心也没关系，同一点发型也没关系，爱也有三心没关系，是否该担心？选择或靠近，逃避或担心，逃避或怀疑，但为你做什么我都乐意。She gonna be strong, like take me home. Are you gonna let her just linger? She said, why you taking so long? Just meet me outside at the end of this song. She said she ain't right or wrong, but don't forget the ring on your finger. Ring finger. I think I gotta go back, I gotta go back, I gotta go back. I think I gotta go back, I gotta go back, I gotta go. Ring finger. I think I gotta go back, I gotta go back, I gotta go back. I think I gotta go back, I gotta go.
I mean, like the repetition of the lyrics here gets stuck in your head. The vocal flows nice and sort of easy and palatable, and you know, it's engaging.
出现了不能怪我，这是天底下男人都会犯的错。在天堂没想太多，忘了只换的承诺，管他是天使或恶魔，天雷地火，你我。寂寞，暂时寄托。这是秘密，不要跟别人说。美梦忽然惊醒，这代价我付不起。现在喊停还来得及。Let our last danger song. Everybody in the corner wanna say hello. Are you strong? Like take me home. Are you gonna let her just linger? Are you gonna let her linger? She said, why you taking so long? Just meet me outside. She ain't right or wrong, but don't forget the ring on your finger. I gotta go back, I gotta go back, I think I gotta go back. I gotta go back, I gotta go back, I think I gotta go back. I think I gotta.
I kind of disengaged from the track a little bit. I kind of enjoyed the kind of sparkly, spacey sense we had earlier in the track, and I wasn't sure it was going to go to this way. I mean, this is gorgeous. I find it's infinitely more interesting here instrumentally than the vast majority of the track outside of, you know, the catchiness of the vocals. Yeah, I'm not sure of the context about it. Is meant to be like a song where we come in, where the synth is meant to say we're blasting off, we're super excited, we're ready to go, but then maybe the person realizes that like they can't go with this person, they really need to kind of back off a bit, and then there's like nighttime because they're sleeping it off and just kind of content with the decision to maybe not make a decision they'll regret. I mean, like, there's fundamentals here that were paid well attention to. The rhythms were fantastic. The way the harmonies kind of intersected with the vocals and all that, you know. As typical Khalil Fong, is very tight. Again, the Justin Timberlake-esque kind of vocal style there, the pads there, the kind of shuffle and charisma is, you know, it's addicting, you know, like it, production was tight too. I think it's going to be the case across this entire album. Then again, it's been pretty tight across his entire discography. I mean, like, it wasn't the same concept the whole time, don't get me wrong. Like, the guitars came in, it was a little more sort of subtle and low-key occasionally. There was dynamic range to it and all that kind of stuff. I didn't feel necessarily particularly excited about it. You know, once you had that motif established, I don't think that the bits of development or, you know, like, diversity with the instrumental layers were enough to sort of spice things up to a level where I was satisfied by the end. But still a good track. We're gonna Love You So Much, track number 9. For today, this is track number 9 off of the album as well. Again, the sound design is phenomenal.
从快乐走到悲哀，紧握的手却松开，再也不可能重来。
Simple bass line.
现在也不眠，也不倦，也不变，是想念。
Not so simple lyrics or vocals.
你说你不愿，你不见，你不恋，旧情难圆，是我该说抱歉。Every time you sigh, every time you cry, girl, I miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were, we were so sure. We were both in the love of our lives. If this is a dream, I just wanna lose myself in every shadow of your smile.
Great use of parallel major
'Cause
there.
girl, I love you so much. Yes, I love you so much. 追错身以后的体会，习以为常的以为，有你相伴的珍贵。灰爱从相知变成了独白，我们的笑容不在，一切是我自己活该。哦，现在也不眠，也不倦，也不变，是想念。你说你不愿，你不见，你不恋，旧情难圆，是我该说抱歉。对从前。Girl, I miss the way, girl, I really miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were, just the way we were. So sure.
Like the pads coming in here. I mean, like at this point, we know that Khalil Fong can sing, so it's not necessarily impressive to me to hear him run these R&B-ish kind of melodies. It's like, it's nice to listen to, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't particularly pique my interest because I'm used to it as a similar quality to a lot of the rest of the tracks, even though there have been slightly different vocal styles throughout. But it's these subtle instrumental developments to layering, like the pads and stuff, which are really important here, I think.
Girl, I love you so much, yes, I love you so much. If you have to go, I know that I can't keep you. That I can't keep you here. Wait with me no more. No use talking about before. If you were with me right now, would you be the way you were, or would you be another girl? There's so much that I'd like to know about.
Great key change.
What's in your heart when we're apart? Tell me if it wasn't real. If there is one thing I know that I can say is true, in me there'll always be a place. Every time you sigh.
Maybe it wasn't a key change, maybe we said parallels again.
Girl, I miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were when we were so sure. We were both in the love of our lives. If this is a dream, I just wanna lose myself in every shadow of your smile. 'Cause girl, I love you so much. Yes, I love you. Every time you cry, girl, I miss the way we said we never say goodbye. And I miss the way we were so sure that we'd be forever, baby. Girl, don't you remember when you were smiling inside, when you were crying? I would cherish every precious moment spent with you. Girl, I love you so much. Yes, I love you so much, girl. Oh, girl, I love you so much.
This is like a balladesque kind of format, isn't it? With the way the drums and everything come together at the end. I mean, I think there's a lot to appreciate within this track, just because I wasn't necessarily excited by the vocal lines or the stories or anything like that, despite, them being in English and me being able to understand them. Ironically, it might even be a more of a bigger sense of wonderment with me not understanding the lyrics. I understand that we're trying to say have the low-key kind of persona whilst also feeling quite a lot of really strong feelings for this person. We're trying to find that fine line within the song with how we communicate and perform that. Again, he's a great singer, and I think that it was heartfelt, and the note choices felt really well regardless of whatever other instruments we put alongside him. Each of the stanzas sounded, and each of the lines sounded genuine and sincere. He clearly cares and feels what he's singing about. I think that, again, there was less confusion for me with this track than the previous, because of the fact that we had a little bit of sort of sparkliness at the start. We kind of kept those situations throughout. We followed through onto the end. You know, it didn't leave me guessing as much, and I think that added a sense of closure to it. I think the overdubs as well that were performed there were fantastic. You know, it was nice to have that last chorus with the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I know we had a bit more of that kind of call and response stuff going on. It was quite fiery even earlier on, but it was nice to finish with a bigger sound like that with the drums underneath and the keys and guitars and all of that kind of simmering along as well. You know, the choices of the different chords, like the key changes, potentially the parallel majors there where they'd usually be a minor chord to kind of make things a bit more sort of positive and dreamy was a smart idea. There's not just fundamentals applied to here, but also some advanced features here that I really sort of respect and appreciate. And there's again, I think there's a lot of good stuff here. It doesn't necessarily excite me. That's the shame about it. But nonetheless, you know, it's still okay. It's still okay. We got track number 15 though, from Khalil Fong. This is titled Troublesome. The sound design, how things flicker in the stereo field though, the vibrations there are kind of dope.
今天看电视告诉我这回谁死谁拼了，谁犯了法谁醉了，都是这些我能背了。看杂志上的图说，也许是看得太多，最近我头脑里的方向感完全都没有。听说很快要打仗，听说好像有灾难。
Wasn't really sure if I was a fan of that phrasing. I think we had like six beats there, if I'm not mistaken, with the accents and the counting of them. I can kind of imagine how that would work if we came in 2 beats earlier, which was why I was sort of a little bit confused, coming on the 3 or 4, then sort of finesse the 1 through 4 the next bar, going back into the 1 on the 3rd. But yeah, still interesting sounds, got some unique textures in here, which is kind of nice. A little bit of sort of vinyl sizzle there. It's just having that little sort of string flutter on the side, right? We know that the rapped verses are going to come in, or the melodic rapping, or just the sung parts. But it's just that one side with this, it kind of makes us question what's going on. It raises our attention because it's not equivocated on the other. It's unbalanced. It sounds like there's a little bit of vocal modulation in that last little tail of the chorus. There is, like a phaser or a filter or something.
间放在一边，我看我们快受不了。
I mean, like, this is a fun change of groove with the percussion. I like the interesting percussive textures we have. Those are unusual sounds for like the snares. They have like kind of like a splashy kind of sense to them, and you don't really get that a lot with snares. Usually they're kind of more sort of firm. Or maybe I'm confusing that with another sort of sample layered over top. When you use the Foley with the people talking around the headphones, it's kind of a neat idea. I'm not sure of the context because I don't understand the language. Troublesome could be that all these people are talking about him. The honky-tonk piano with the bluesy kind of overtones and the lack of real kind of majorish. So there's guns. What is that meant to reference? Is that meant to reference Khalil Fong getting involved in stuff, or is he talking about people who get involved with trouble or that are troublesome? I'm not sure, but I think that this one being more down to earth with just the slow piano, the bass, the occasional sort of splashy percussive elements there, they were fun. I mean, like, again, we've had a similar kind of vocal style to a lot of the stuff we've done through this album, so clearly we're very happy with where we're at in regards to that. Again, I think I mentioned there was like a bit of further development with the percussion and some sort of warmer mid parts, so maybe some synthy bits or whatever that came later on. We did sort of progress with concepts we established and try and shake them up as we went along. I think part of what made the intro and outro work, or, you know, those Foley-ish bits work, was simply that we had a different type of sound or texture there. You know, the people talking, especially on the far sides of the stereo field, is intriguing. You're like, what are they saying? And that helps to flesh out a track. There were sub layers of synths and stuff like that for transitions, but it was relatively minimalist otherwise within the composition. I think these are still well written tracks. They're just quite long at 4 minutes 42. But as long as Khalil Fong can tell the story that they need to in a way where it doesn't repeat things too much, as long as the instruments behind it are played in a way which is interesting to listen to and you can kind of like sort of nod your head and kind of appreciate it, I think you've basically got the winning formula there in a lot of situations. But we've got like Once here, which is track number 16, which is number 11 for us. I also want to comment on the fact there's a lot of English in this album, and I know that's potentially an awareness from Khalil Fong that they've got an audience outside of the sort of Mandarin speaking parts. Or Cantonese, I'm never sure which language is which, so feel free to let me know. Hang on. Sorry, I just realized my lights had gone off.
The time had come. Many times before, many lives before, many wives before, when every mother's child, every father's son joined the regiments of the generals, and the night had gone and the day had dawned. We realized how great a loss. Just once, if we only had a single chance, just once, with a decision that would influence the world. What would we do if we were given just once?
See, this is infinitely more interesting to me than some of the other tracks here, primarily because it's unexpected to simply have like 57 seconds of the kind of synthy kind of key organish thing going on here, with slight variations in the tone there, slight variations the way we sing, going from more sort of spoken sung parts to like the more sort of vocal runs later on. It's just intriguing because it's different. And the pause here, just appreciate the motif. Wonderful.
If the final rule in a court of law could determine life or death for all, or a punishment of the innocent and negligence of the guilty men, Would the world be brought to loftiness or fall into its knees?
Great resolution.
Just once, if we only had a single chance, just once, with a decision that would influence the world. What would we do if we were given just once to make the wisest choice that we have ever made, to spread a word of love to every race, just once.
Phenomenal, really.
What would we do if we were given just one?
I mean, it's tremendous use of short form. Yeah, the variation with the choir coming later on to build it up. And the kind of harpsichordish, kind of 8-bit harpsichord to finish it off. But the unison note there. I think it's probably my favorite track out of this listening section. Like this second half. I think it's tremendous. I really appreciated the fact we kind of divorced ourselves from the R&B kind of more traditional leanings there. Even if we tried different things like with the synthy intros and outros of like Ring Finger and stuff like that, even though they were separately beautiful, I appreciate that we've tried to have a single concept through the entirety of this track, which at 2 minutes 51 is a bit shorter than the rest, but that it just has a really wholesome, interesting message of philosophical predicament, right? If you get one chance to make that decision, what would you do? I think that's a wonderful thing to discuss and commiserate on. I think that's just a really clever thing to consider. And it's kind of a little bit different some of the other stuff we discussed within this track, although I can't be sure about everything, because again, it's not in a language I necessarily understand. Regardless, I think having the spirituality, the crowd there showing a gravitas and a drama, but also a togetherness of your decision impacting other people is tremendous. And the just occasional sort of textural shifts there of the way the motifs were established there, both layering stuff on and bringing it back a little bit near the end there just to kind of let things simmer down was just a masterstroke. Really solid tune, man. Really, really solid tune. But we've got like track 12 for us, which is track 18 off the album. I gotta show some love to Khalil Fong. Like, this is a 21 track album. That's an incredible effort. I do really appreciate the effort put in here, you know, lots of love for that. You know, I might not have necessarily been absolutely ecstatic about everything I've heard on this album so far, but I can appreciate the work put into it. But yeah. Night. Okay. Bringing back that kind of synth pad funkiness with the... It's so fresh, man. Are we modulating majors? No, that's like a 7th augmented or something like that, or inverted. I use falsetto here. It's just fun to listen to. I really like the sound of the drums there, as well as the blah blah blah, those kind of splashy sort of synthy parts going on there. The bass is so smooth and positive and uplifting, and the sparkle of those drums are just addicting, man. I remember confusing two of those together. I wonder if they're using an electric or an acoustic kit. I mean, they'd be using an electric kit, but what I mean is, were they playing an electric kit to sample this, or are they sampling using beat machines? I mean, either is cool, but just for that clappy snare sound, you know? More sparkles up top in the higher range. We understand our jazzy fundamentals with our extended chords and stuff like that. We're clearly very sort of knowledgeable about that. Fascinating choice to adjust things there. So if we can keep a similar tempo and similar instruments, we can change the notes a little bit, change the way the progressions are phrased, maybe even adjust elements of the percussion in the rhythm section, and create a song that continues to excel, because we're not sort of just trying to sort of suck the original motif too dry. I think this does harken back to some of the early parts we had. No, I think that was sensational. That was really great. I like this track a lot. I thought the chords that we used were great. There was some, we weren't just using traditional major and minor chords within the key signature. We were sticking some parallel majors in there. Kind of sort of like spice it up, make it seem a little more sort of like spacey, and add a sense of quirkiness and whimsy and fun to it. The sort of, again, as I mentioned earlier, the textures that we had within like the synth parts and the basses and all that seemed very sort of like, they were chosen because they knew they were going to work together and create an interesting sort of overall aesthetic. If I think about whether does this sound like nighttime, yeah, I can kind of imagine it sort of sparkling like at the end of Ring Finger. I think Khalil Fong has a fantastic understanding of how to kind of make it sound like it's like nighttime and you're listening to that spacey music, and it's very peaceful and pretty and gorgeous, and it suits the falsetto that Khalil Fong was using for a lot of this performance. I thought they're going up into that range and like letting things sort of fly up there whilst you have the bass and drums down the bottom battling things out. It also gives you a lot of room in that mid-range there to kind of play around with sort of lower harmonic textures and stuff like that and other melody ideas. But it's also just the way things are placed around the stereo field as well as sort of niched in the frequency spectrum, the post-production being as tight as it is. That's how you get away with stuff like this, which is truly tremendous. I think that Night is another one of my favorite tracks off of this album. Stunning. I think I'm liking the later half more than the earlier, even though to note there are still good songs. But apparently I've listened to It's Not Low Key before. I've got a like on it, so I'm wondering if that was you during one of the old fan requests I used to do. But we're going to listen through that for the last track today from start till finish, and then we're going to do the conclusion. Kind of twisted sort of bassy motif there with the distortion, as you know.
有一位天才改变了整个时代，早的记忆我和你都放在口袋，创意澎湃，别人笑他不存在，他这个那个设计人与人沟通的未来，除了这为人，连工作认真，我昼夜不分。
Strings add such drama to it with the way they're kind of holding and vibrating there.
像你我才开发世界的繁华。每天的无声无息，多少人默默努力，多少年始终如一，维持城市的呼吸。每天的冲出导向，带旅客天上翱翔，照顾每人的健康，发明把黑暗照亮，都一样。不名字的每个英雄，无数年来把世界推动，无声的贡献，有天会懂。一个只能在留下，世界没有他感动不了。很不低调，很不低调，很不低调，很不低调。
It sounded like it built up to something, but never got massive. There wasn't a massive sort of sense of bass response or anything like that. We weren't trying to overwhelm the listener. It was like trying to reach a natural tipping point.
不管多细小，闯出奇妙。有一位先生，多年足不出门，他的发明到如今照亮每个人。那份专注，没有多少人关注。他继续研究，不求任何人记住他付出。除了这为人，连工作认真，我昼夜不分，他安守本分，不分秋冬春夏，你我他开发世界的繁华。每天的无声无息，多少人默默努力，多少
Lots of energy to the vocal performance here. Can't help but love it. Very used to field or work with the cymbals to bring it up. I would have appreciated some pauses here though. What I like is to have pauses in tracks, and this is something I'm learning about myself, you know, having recently submitted some music through that I've made to like blind listens. It's good to have pauses, little bits of break there to really sort of appreciate the motif when it's gone. You know what I mean? Because a lot of this is consistency. A lot of it is consistency in previous tracks, such as Once, I think we had pauses where like there was just the instrument going without more lyrics there. But things kind of came down in intensity as well, overall. We haven't really necessarily had it with this one apart from the build section, but that's because of the filter. It's great to have a decently phrased lead on the end. Yeah, I like this. Shakers, kit, guitar, and that's all you really need, right? To an extent. And a nice little eloquent fade out to let us finish it out. We were going to have a bit more of a solo, but we didn't allow ourselves to have it. That's a bit of a shame, but that's okay. I think that the funky sort of tones that kind of remind me of some of the music in like the 70s and stuff like that were great here. We had a great sense of 16th note kind of groove established by the guitar parts. The drums were ecstatic to be there. The vocal lines, again, were like full of energy and fun and funky to listen to. There was a lot of really cool stuff within this, and I appreciate, again, the build with like the filtering of like getting out the low ends and keeping things high for us to kind of slam down back into that main section. I appreciate the fact we didn't need to sort of push the bass too hard in order to make it effective. Again, as I mentioned, I would have liked a little bit more sort of like blank space occasionally, but it's okay if you want it to be like a dance track or something like that, which I assume It's Not Low-Key was meant to be. This track was definitely not low-key, and I think it was trying to sort of like comment on that. The production was well timed. The performance in general was nice and tight. It was nice to have more sort of the guitar coming in later on to establish an alternate lead and a different sort of personality to it, a bit of swankiness and a bit of sexiness. And overall, I think the track was well fleshed out, even it being 4 to 12, kind of outside of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot. I've had an interesting time listening through Khalil Fong stuff, but we're going to talk about that more in the conclusion. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of these 13 tracks from Khalil Fong. From Clear all the way to It's Not Low-Key. Now this is going to be a longer video, I assume probably close to an hour. So I'm glad if you've watched through it. If you haven't watched through it, that's fine. You just want to hear my overall thoughts on it. But if you're watching this, thanks for sticking through it. I think that there's a lot to appreciate about Khalil Fong's stuff. I've talked about the individual tracks in each of the songs, after each of the songs, so if you didn't get those individual track comments, feel free to listen through the video again. There's chapters to let you know which song is which. But I think that there's a lot to appreciate about the way that Khalil Fong writes. I got a mixture of different subjects here. A few of the songs were about love and relationships and such. A few of the songs were bigger messages, like about like TWIOCAMIC and Once, where like we just sort of discussed like the differences between people and sort of like trying to make sense of where people are and our differences and trying to find common ground and stuff like that, and trying to sort of figure out how we would do if we had to make bigger decisions and whether we would be wise enough to actually make those decisions. And so as a way trying to appreciate what the severity of the pressure on people who have to make those decisions. There are some really cool ideas explored within these, and I like that it's art. I think there's also songs like Noodles, where, you know, Noodles was like, you know, a great song about noodles. It was about being in quarantine and stuff like that, and making noodles and just enjoying the experience and liking the small things. It's a helpful, really happy song as far as I could tell. So I like that Khalil Fong is keen to explore heavier subjects, show a bit of vulnerability or his emotions with the love stuff, and also just have fun with the noodle stuff. It's a great all-round diverse artist who I have a lot of respect for. His vocals are top-notch, incredible technique, really sensational technique in a head and chest voice with falsetto. We can also rap. We can also sort of like do more sort of storytelling, sort of drama theater kind of Broadway stuff like Once. And we can also do the sort of whimsical story time stuff like, Mr. Inspiration. We've got a lot of different tools in our toolbox. I was just making sure I hadn't peaked in the microphone. I'm trying to work on my microphone tone at the moment. And I adore the fact that we managed to sort of like nail every single one. It's not an easy thing to do. There are some musicians or vocalists, singers or rappers that are just in that box or that box. But Khalil Fong is capable of seemingly doing it all, and that's a rare thing, and I really respect it. We have a fundamental understanding of music theory and composition, as well as to layer and harmonize ourselves with the rest of the mix to emote effectively with the lyrics, as well as the subject matter within the songs with regards to the backing, the foley, etc. And whenever I listen to Khalil Fong, especially after listening through these 13 tracks, I feel really secure in knowing that we're going to have a good time. The tracks themselves varied immensely. We had a lot of different approaches within this. There are a few sort of more modern sort of hip-hop and R&B, hip-hop rap tracks there with like the kind of kits and the 808s and stuff like that. We had some more sort of electric bass, just kind of soothing stuff. We had some really funky stuff with the kind of the 16th note guitar riffs and like the brass and all that. We had more kind of playful fantasy kind of stuff like Mr. Inspiration. We had like synth heavy stuff such as like Night as well as Ring Finger. We had Wukong, which just reminded me of a lot of the stuff that went on in the mid-90s with like the boy bandish kind of stuff like that, with a lot of the instruments that came from the era, like the basses and the drums. We had guitars as well. We had really fantastic exploration of the drums as well as the keys. We did not sleep. We had a wide range of different instruments there. I think we even, if I'm not mistaken, had some interesting sort of like flute ideas, as well as some sort of string parts, some cello occasionally, though I could be tripping. No, I think I'm tripping. I'm confusing that with something else. But nonetheless, we did have strings in these tracks. It's just each song had its own collection of different ingredients that Khalil Fong knew how to sing on, make sort of songs about and tell stories on in a way that made sense, not only in regards to the musicality of it, but also the way the motifs made you feel, and the lyrics and those motifs made sense together. But if I talk about, like, most of the tracks had a traditional sort of like verse chorus structure, with some interludes. Songs like Once were more sort of like through composed. You had the not necessarily through composed. We didn't have as much of a focus on like a verse chorus A-B kind of thing. And some tracks just went in completely different directions automatically. Like we had like 3 or 4 different main sort of sectors where we had key changes or different sort of harmonic ideas there or melodic ideas. We changed the grooves up a little bit. It was seemingly unpredictable. And I think that part of that was to suit what Khalil was doing with the vocals, to make them sort of like be in sync and in time with that. But it's also just, I think that, again, Khalil Fong has a lot of sort of toys in their toolbox, and they're able to get away with it. If I talk about a few of my favorite instruments, though, I think the guitar work is tremendous within this. We're clearly capable of playing the guitars per like the little lead solo that we had in Noodles, as well as some of the minimalist, like funky kind of lead playing with the pentatonics and blues we've had elsewhere. We didn't play too much guitar, but it was enough to sort of simmer in that mid to high range, provide a nice alternate to the lead, to the singing, to the vocals, which is good. The percussion was fantastic. Usually we established a beat. We kind of stayed on that beat for a lot of the track, but when they were there, they were catchy. They moved us forward. They propelled us, and it was really engaging and intricate and to listen to. And you could get good sort of pulse from that and kind of nod your head along to it. And I think that's kind of the fundamentals adhere to by that alone. But it's also the funkiness of the bass. I've said funky a lot. The bass tones in this across these tracks were typically very, very good. They stacked well within the frequency spectrum. When they needed to be a little more sort of boisterous, they were, but typically they were fairly low key and kind of sat well to kind of go with the kicks, as well as to maintain a sort of foundation for a lot of the mid to high range elements. The synths that we had were typically in our mid to high range, kind of starry, kind of patty bits there, which were very smooth and soft and pretty and easy to listen to. We had some uncomfortable parts occasionally, but most of the time they were really sort of palatable and very easy to listen to. And there were interesting like parts like at the start of like an end of like Ring Finger, where we had 2 slightly different synth concepts there with little twinkles and like stars in the skies and stuff. So Khalil Fong can kind of they can inspire imagery in your head to kind of imagine how that calibrates, and I appreciate the ability to do that. It's not an easy thing to do, to play something and have a listener kind of imagine what it could mean, especially if they don't have the story to provide context, but I'm hoping I wasn't too far off there. I think the final thing I want to talk about in terms of composition is the use of Foley occasionally, like with the talking one. I think Troublesome had like talking and parts there. The sound surrounded us. Also the use of really, because it made you kind of think, why are these people talking, etc. Why have we got something that's not an instrument here to give our attentions to? And it's interesting because it's unexpected. Especially with a lot of these tracks, it's typically sort of been just Khalil singing. For that one part, it's like, oh, okay, we're exploring a new thing. Kind of reminded me a lot of, it reminded me of like when Zhang Yuxing started doing a lot of that stuff in later albums. And it was like, that's really cool. And to be fair, other musicians do it too. You know, Foley isn't exclusive to a few. But I think that even without knowing the language, Khalil Fong enacted it really well there. I talked about the individual motifs and themes of the tracks overall when I was talking through them. There's just a lot to discuss. You know, there's a lot. But I think ultimately we knew when to sort of stick with traditional major and minor triads. We did stay away from being too sort of generic though and vanilla. We would include interesting sort of parallel majors and minors, or we would have, you know, like extensions with those chords there to add a sense of jazzy sort of sophistication to it, add a bit of sort of like harmonic maturity to it. We knew to kind of keep it a bit sort of more simple with some of the more easy listening stuff like Mr. Inspiration and stuff like that, as well as Noodle. We had to use the blues and pentatonic scales occasionally. But it was just the finesse over those four main rhythms and understanding of scale shapes and ornamentation and just knowing how to sort of like set things up in the stereo field to sort of sparkle and be really meaningful. It was really incredible. And I mean, the studio production, the recording, mixing, mastering was just the icing on the cake, where we had someone who was clearly very capable, very confident with what they wanted out of their music, and whoever did the production did a sensational job of it overall. I'm really stoked with the way that the vocals were always so present. There might have been effects on the vocals occasionally, like filtering or phasing or something like that. The vocals were sometimes on the sides, sometimes they were very, very raw, such as once, where like it was simply meant to sort of like sound like a live take. But whatever we did with the vocals, they were niched well in the frequency spectrum and the stereo field. They had their place and nothing distracted from them too much. Same with like the guitars, the bass, the drum synth, keys, any other instruments that we had here or there, including the Foley elements, which were far on the sides. You just had, it was even like when we had minimal amounts of like very few instruments, they found a way to sort of fill up the stereo field by going backwards and forwards with like synth vibrations or different hits going back to sides. Like there was never a moment where you're like, oh, I'm listening to this thing in the center and that's all there is. When you were to kind of pique the listener's attention earlier on by compounding or compelling them to get involved by putting them in that space there. And I think that was very smart. But yeah, again, no resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum, no, everything was nice and wide in the stereo field and it was well surrounded. There was dynamic range in a lot of the songs. Some of the songs, like, I think it was like, oh no, it's not low key. There were some tracks where I wasn't really necessarily happy with the repetition of some of the sections there, even though we might have been trying to take a catch one. I think Wukong was a good example. That did be fair to Khalil Fong. I think as we went on, there's a difference in the way he writes music between 2003 to 2016. Where 2003 was a little more sort of like repetitive, a little bit less kind of explorative with the instruments used, with the variations and the different sort of textures of different instruments and stuff included. With 2016, he kind of like went away from that entirely, added like an English section, etc., which is kind of dope. I think that's the final comment I want to make. Just with the album, with these music overall, it's very well made. I didn't necessarily emotionally connect with all of it, and if I'm honest, there were some tracks in here that, you know, outside of a respect for the way that Khalil Fong writes and sings and produces, it's really well made music that I don't really have an affinity with because I don't necessarily, I didn't necessarily feel excited by it. There were tracks that were in English, you know, like Once and stuff like that, made you sort of ponder and think about that. But there are some tracks that also had English where I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing that's occurring. I love you so much. It's like, I understand this is a love song and I understand this is very meaningful, but it was almost like how chilled out it was didn't necessarily kind of like sell it for me, because it seemed like we're trying to juxtapose two different things together and put two extremes in a way which made it kind of like emotionally kind of like tentative. I don't know. But that's subjective. Ultimately, I still think it's a great selection of tracks. I'm glad, again, to Foodbacker for allowing me to check out these tracks and for letting me know more of Khalil Fong's music. And thank you very much for watching my really long review of Khalil Fong's music, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show him some love via the various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as he the hell more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.